What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson, today joined by my co-host, Colin Alcaves. As you guys can see, the vibes are so much better in this episode than they were in our last episode when we ranted about how we need to sell the team. Well, apparently Chris Drury listened because a day later, Jacob Trouba, the villain, the current villain, I guess now former villain of the channel, has been shipped away, sent out west to play for the Anaheim Ducks. And I feel like that we're closing this terrible chapter of New York Rangers hockey, and we're turning the page to get to better times, hopefully more wins, as we saw last night with that win over Pittsburgh. So we're going to talk about the Trouba trade today, our thoughts on it, breaking down the return, how we're feeling. And before we do that, I do just want to point out, yes, we are aware that shortly after Trouba was traded, the Rangers did finally get that Igor extension done. We are going to talk about that tomorrow. I feel like that deserves its own episode. Today, we're going to focus mainly on Trouba. So stay tuned for that Shesterkin episode, which will be coming out shortly. But as for Trouba, we're going to get right on into that. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. Please leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I know that a lot of you are going to have so much to say about this trade, whether you were a Trouba hater, I feel like most of you might be, or a Trouba forgiver from last season, which I was teetering back and forth. But now that the trade's done, I'm full in on the bye-bye. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. I'm all over the place. I'm filled with excitement, even though it's like a day later. But Colin, let's get right on to it. How you doing today?
I'm good. I woke up yesterday to a bunch of people calling me that, things were going down. And I was like, what? And I hopped on Twitter right away and I'm seeing all of it. And I'm like, oh my God. So I ended up, I was doing yard work yesterday with my AirPods and I was just constantly listening to tweets. I have my notifications on for like LeBron and Elliot Friedman and all those guys. So anytime I tweet would come through from those guys, it would come through on my AirPods. I'm like listening to music. It's like tweet from Elliot. I'm like freezing, waiting to see what's this is the best case scenario. I think that this is the best thing that could have happened for the Rangers. I think obviously, it sucks for Trouba because his family's in New York, and I feel bad about that. Like, Trouba as a person, I like him. As a player, unfortunately, he just was never really what he was supposed to be. Never lived up to the $8 million billing or the shutdown defenseman that he was supposed to be. In an article I read on Bleacher Report, he was constantly mispositioned. His footwork wasn't good. His decision making was poor. And other than the occasional big hit, and the leadership that he brought, he really didn't do a whole lot else. I appreciate what he did for the New York Rangers in his time here, but I think the fact that we were able to get somebody to take his entire deal is massive. It's $8 million off the books for Drury to now play with this season to help improve this roster, whilst also making the defense better by getting rid of one of its weakest links. It's addition by subtraction.
Yeah. I mean, no, you're right. I mean, I think back to the end of summer or early fall when that Amazon Prime show came out and they had that episode about Trouba. That's when I kind of started to appreciate Trouba more. He did a lot for the New York community. So kind of like you said, I feel like I need to say that too, because I spew a lot of hate about Trouba. It's not about who he is. I think he's a cool guy and he did do a lot for the community. But unfortunately, you're being a good guy and being the captain doesn't outweigh your performance on the ice for a professional sports team. And unfortunately, Trouba made too much for what he did. He had to go. And let's just get into the trade. I mean, what did Chris Drury have over the Anaheim Ducks organization to get them to just take on $8 million of Jacob Trouba? We over summer and then throughout this season so far, we've been speculating about the trade. It was made very public over summer that we were trying to trade Trouba away. And the biggest thing that we thought was holding us back was the money. We'd probably have to retain at least half. I think the max is half that you can retain, I think. At least it is in the EA Sports NHL GM mode. But, we've got retaining salary, getting a team willing to take on a player with that cap hit. But then out of nowhere, we're getting the Anaheim Ducks to take all $8 million, and we're getting a player in return, and we're getting a draft pick in return. Thinking about past trades from other teams around the league, we've seen other teams take on full cap hits because the team that's getting rid of it is also throwing picks in to convince the team. But no, we just got rid of Trouba all in all, and then we're actually getting stuff in return. So That's kind of magical by Chris Drury. I don't know how he pulled it off. And it kind of makes me think back to the Barclay Goodrow thing, where we just got his entire contract off the books because the San Jose Sharks were just like, all right, bring him. And I don't know, it's pretty good. And, speaking of the return, we've got Eero Vakanainen. That's going to be a name that's going to take a little bit of time to get used to saying. I know we just talked a little bit about him before the episode started. From what I understand, I don't follow the Ducks. I don't know much about this guy, but I'll let you tell the audience exactly what you told me.
I'll say, he's got a lot of young promise. He's a former first-round pick, 18th overall by the Bruins. He's 6'2", so he's a big boy, 205. Only 25 years old, and he was struggling to make the Ducks lineup consistently. But I do think that he could be like another Victor Mancini, where he could develop into something maybe a little bit better, like a third pairing guy. Not a guy that I want out there consistently, like a top pairing guy. I don't think that he's that, or he might become that, but it's too early to tell. At least for me, he's had a lot of time in the league so far, but not a lot of consistency. But last year in 68 games, he had 1 goal, 13 assists for 14 points, and he was a plus minus of 0. So he was even, and 26 penalty minutes. So that's solid. I'd take that for a third pairing guy. And for the rest of his career, he's been a minus for a lot of those times. But again, he was playing with the Ducks and then very limited time with the Bruins. I think he only played like 20 games with the Bruins, maybe a little bit more, or like 30 games with the Bruins over the course of like 4 seasons. So it's a small sample size to really judge. It's hard to figure out if he's going to be like a good guy or if he's just going to be an AHLer. But either way, it's good to get a good young defenseman back who might be able to turn into something, or maybe he's just another depth piece that can step up like a Mancini can if there's an injury and maybe prove us all wrong. And maybe, he fits in our system a little bit better than he would with Anaheim, because we do have a little bit more of a structure, I feel like, than Anaheim does. They're all still so young over there. And their top defenseman is Radko Gudas, who would be like the third best defenseman on our team. So, that's just the way I look at it. I know they have a lot of good young players over there too, and Zellweger and whatnot. But it's not a bad return to get him and the pick, whilst also removing $8 million with the books. I thought for sure that we were going to have to trade at least a second or a third or maybe a second to get them to take him, and we might have to retain 25%. But to have that deal off the books for this year and for next year, I don't know what Drury cooked up over there, but it's phenomenal. I do want to comment on what Trouba was saying. I do feel bad about how the whole situation
went. I was going to get to that, yeah.
He was saying...
Wait. Before we get into that, though, I just want to say the other part of the return, for those that didn't see, was a 4th-round draft pick that we got. It'll be the lower of Anaheim's 2 fourths that they have. So that's the full return. Now you can go.
Well, there's 2 things I wanted to say that he was saying. He was saying that all this talk of trades or whatever lingering over him was making him play worse. It was hard to play well. But he wasn't playing well like the 4 years before that. So I don't know where that's coming from, but whatever. I do feel bad about how this whole thing went. It's definitely a cloud hanging over you. They were saying it yesterday. If anybody watched the games, the intermission, they had him on. And Kevin Weeks was saying, and whoever he was talking with, I forget who it is, they were saying how, like, the Shesterkin contract, that doesn't really hang over the team. It more hangs over Shesterkin because it's his play individually and he wants to make that money, but he knows that he's going to get paid. So that doesn't really affect it as much. Whereas this, like, the potential of being traded across the country or traded away from your family, that can affect your every night play. So I do want to say that I understand that and how that could be kind of nagging at him and also on the team as a whole. And it does kind of feel like now that he's gone, as sad it is to say, that this dark cloud is kind of maybe lifted a little bit. Because especially over him, at least, I feel like he's got to have a little bit of clarity now. He knows that he's good where he is, and we kind of don't have to question every day. Like, it's not going to be, where's Trouba? Why is he playing so bad? What are we going to do with him? How are we going to get rid of this $8 million? Now it's done. So now it's like, unfortunately,
there goes the content.
There's going to be another scapegoat, or maybe the tides have finally started to turn. They'll use that money to go and get some depth pieces to fix this decor, and they'll get that. Last night was one of their best games this in the last 10. They played very well last night. They finally outshot an opponent. They held a really hot Pittsburgh Penguins team to 20 shots, and they got some clutch goals when they needed it after going down 1-0. And you're starting to see some of these players get hot again. Panarin, 2 goals. Trocheck with a 3-point night. Riley Smith with a goal. I thought that was one of his best games of the season. So, bodes well. But I also want to say what the other thing he said, which has been made very public now, and everybody's probably heard it. He said yesterday morning, talking about prior to the trade, it was accept this trade or we're scratching you. I said, okay. Then it was accept this trade or you're going on waivers. I said, okay. It's a rite of passage to get fired from MSG.
I mean, the Rangers do have a pretty bad history of how they treat their captains, going all the way back to Jaromir Jagr.
The last 3 captains have been traded.
Yeah. And it's not good. I don't know. we have a bad track record with captains.
It's definitely concerning. I know players around the league do take notice, but at the same time, it's a business. As much as it is like a game, it's a business. There's the business side to it, and a lot of people don't like to think about that, especially when it comes to like their favorite players and things like that. Like Zuccarello leaving, that sucked and that hurt, but it's a business. We're at the point where we had to make that move because it did make sense to keep him, although we might have been able to, but whatever. But like, I know that the Goudreau thing was very cutthroat. This seemed very cutthroat. And unfortunately, that's kind of what it takes. That's what Vegas did with Fleury and with a bunch of other players. And I know that a lot of people don't look at them too fondly, but they won a cup. So I know their fans are looking at them fondly. You kind of got to be willing to do whatever it takes in this league to win. And I think that this is a move that Drury made, not only strengthened his resume as a GM, but might have saved his time if Dolan was thinking of getting rid of him, or if he was on the hot seat. He is no longer. I think that this is one of the best trades in recent Rangers history in terms of cap clearing, whilst also still getting a return. I haven't looked anywhere where they said that this is a foolish trade or this is a silly trade, where everybody says that we've won this trade and they don't know what the Ducks are thinking in taking on $8 million. I guess they have the cap space, so why not? But like, I don't know. I guess it's exactly the type of defenseman that they're looking for. The GM loves guys like Trouba, and now they have their own version of the Bash brothers, which I've been seeing everywhere. That him and Gudis are just going to be no chins are safe in Anaheim. But yeah, I love this move. I have no complaints about this move, other than the fact that like I don't want to separate a man from his family. I do feel bad about that, but at the end of the day, it's a business, And I read yesterday, somebody tweeted it. It's like a man being paid $8 million declining to go anywhere else because he doesn't want to leave his family for a short period of time so he can make the $8 million is one of the most first world problems I've ever heard of. It's like you're literally getting paid. It's part of the job. If I'm getting paid $8 million, you're like, hey, we're putting you over there for the next 2 years. Unfortunately, that's where I got to go. Like I can't fight it. And I know he had the no trade or the no move, but there was also there was a 15-team list. Outside of that list, there wasn't anything you could really do.
You could have waived it for Columbus and been a whole lot closer.
Or I know Detroit was the team over the summer. Ironically, they said yesterday that he wasn't the one that nixed the trade to Detroit that we were all ragging on him for.
Yeah, I did see that was on Detroit.
They said that it was a player that they wanted to send back to us was unwilling to move his clause.
I wonder who it could have been.
And I wonder if Trouba was really stopping that up as well, or if it was this other guy's fault and Trouba just caught a bunch of flack. In which case, I apologize, Trouba. But
never apologize.
But best case scenario. I love this trade for both teams, I guess, because they got what they wanted. We got rid of what we wanted and gained some cap space. And now we have a lot of flexibility to do what we got to do this season if they want to go and add some depth pieces, whether that be another depth scorer or some defense.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we cleared up a lot of space. It's unfortunate that it was kind of cutthroat. I as much as we brag on Trouba on this channel, I do still feel bad. He is a human being that's just unfortunately isn't good at hockey. But like you said, at the end of the day, it's a business. You don't do your job good, you get fired. That's what happens. So it's a shame it went down the way that it did, but it helps. And we cleared a lot of money, and obviously Drury wasted no time using that money, but that's going to be tomorrow's episode. So the last thing I want to say before we wrap up, it won't take long. Just who's going to be the next captain? What's your prediction? Because I would love for it to be Kreider. But apparently last time when we were choosing a captain, he didn't want it, so that's how it ended up going to Trouba. So I would love for it to be Kreider, but assuming he just still doesn't want it, Trocheck.
Yeah, that would probably be my pick. I don't think that they're going to name a captain just yet. I think they're going to wait.
I'm sure it'll be a while.
Yeah, I think they're going to run with the alternates for a while, with the assistant captains. But I don't know. I could see it being. I could see them going back to Kreider. I feel like he tried to step up last night when Schneider got a little bit of what is it? I think he got tripped or hooked or something by Pedersen, and Kreider went right in and defended him. And I think that showed leadership. I think there was a lot more defense, like players coming to defense last night. And I know that without Trouba, a lot of guys, like the veterans, think they need to do that, and I think that's awesome. I can see Kreider getting it. I can see Trocheck getting it.
Panarin.
A lot of people talk about the young players getting it. I don't think that happens for a little bit. I think they need to work on their own game first before they start worrying about being the captain of a team. And I know there are, and I know people are going to think I'm blowing a lot of smoke, but there's a lot of talk about Brady Tkachuk still. And he's a captain over there. I don't think that they'd immediately turn around and name him captain here, but if he's good enough to be named captain in Ottawa, who knows? So if that deal ever does come to fruition, I think it's a lot of hoopla. But you never know. You never know. Because I did not think I was going to wake up yesterday and see Trouba off my team. And a day later.
Yesterday was a crazy day. Crazy day. I mean, I was at work, and then Tony's texting me going, oh my God. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Lafreniere will get the captaincy already. He's on the books for 7 more years. I've always said he would be a future captain, after Trouba was gone, but Trouba being gone came a lot quicker than expected. So maybe they just jump right into it. All right, hand Alexis Lafreniere the captaincy, but I don't know. Jacob Trouba, thank you for the content. That's all that's about, and for what you did for the community. Other than that, I'm sorry that I was mean. I like to think that the amount of hate that we spewed on this channel for Trouba contributed to this. I think Drury might have watched.
Well, obviously the Ducks didn't, because they went and traded for him.
Yeah, well, that's the Ducks' fault. If they subscribed to Fireside Ducks, they would have known.
Keep them posted.
But that about wraps up today's episode of Fireside Rangers. Like I said earlier, we're going to be back tomorrow to talk about that Shesterkin contract. I know it's breaking news, but me and Colin got a lot to do. Wanted to address the Trouba thing first. So if you want to see that episode tomorrow, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. Once again, leave your thoughts down in that comment section below. And, obviously this trade went down yesterday, and we're talking about it the following day. We had the immediate breaking news post and shared our thoughts on our social media platforms. So if you want more immediate coverage for stuff like that, be sure to follow our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. But most importantly, we are saying let's go Rangers again. We didn't do it last episode, but we're back. We're so back. So have a good one, and let's go Rangers.